Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, did you want me to go ahead and start?
Well, let me try one more. For whatever reason, and we've done this for 2 years, when I click on the live stream to get it on the YouTube channel, it's giving me a completely different screen that I've never seen before. And it's just black. So and I've got no public information technical assistance at this time of night. So the meeting will still be recorded and we will post it on our website in the morning for people to go back and watch. But I'm afraid for whatever reason, we do not have a YouTube stream tonight.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. And we'll put something on our website tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. Good evening and welcome to the August 4th, 2022 meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Planning Commission. In response to the coronavirus epidemic, this meeting is being held via WebEx online meeting platform. Members of the public were provided the opportunity to email comments to the Planning Department prior to noon yesterday. Members of the public may also address the Planning Commission in real time via electronic communication provided in the auditorium at 120 West Doherty Street, subject to safe distancing measures. For those of you viewing the meeting remotely, you will find the meeting agenda with the YouTube meeting address on the Planning Department website at acc.com/planning. Sorry, accgov.com/planning. For those of you viewing the meeting from the auditorium, on the table by the auditorium door, you will find a sign-in sheet and copies of tonight's agenda. After staff presentation of an agenda item, we will receive public comment, first from the applicant, then from those in the auditorium. 10 minutes are allowed for the applicant to address the commission. 3 minutes are allowed for anyone else who wishes to address the commission. After public comment, the applicant or their representative may request a 2-minute response. Once the public hearing is closed, the Planning Commission will proceed to discuss the item. We will receive no additional public comments unless requested by the Commission. When addressing the Commission from the auditorium, please speak from the designated place as directed by staff. For all speakers, please provide your name, address, and the nature of your interest in the project. For those in the auditorium, a timer device will display an amber light 30 seconds before the expiration of the allotted time and a red light upon expiration of the allotted time. So please pay attention to the light so that I won't have to interrupt you. For those addressing the commission remotely, you'll also be expected to adhere to the specified time limits. Exhibits may be displayed by the applicants remotely or in the auditorium. Written correspondence received by noon yesterday has been forwarded to the commission and is part of the public record. Any additional written materials to be placed into the record must be read during public comment within the time limits previously stated. Please direct your comments to the Planning Commission and not to the applicants. And for those of you in the auditorium, please refrain from applauding or jeering any of the speakers. For everyone participating in this evening meeting, please turn off or silence your cell phones. For commission members, please mute your microphone if you are not speaking, use the chat box if you have any technical issues, and raise your hand to the camera if you'd like to speak, and please wait to be recognized. And remember that this meeting is being recorded. Okay, so we'll start with our first item under general business, the introduction of staff reports and other documents submitted to the Planning Commission at this meeting into the official record. Would anyone like to make a motion? Lucy?
So move.
Okay, and a second? Kristen? Okay, great. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Okay, and opposed? Okay, second item is the approval of the July 7th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion? Lucy?
Move approval.
Oh, great, and a second? Kristen? Okay, all in favor of approving the last month's minutes, please raise your hand and say aye. Okay, and opposed? Okay, thank you. Brad, is there any May courts review or public comment?
I do have one quick comment for you guys, just to kind of keep you in the loop with what's going on. On Tuesday night, the Mayor and Commission did approve to move forward with RS&H as our consultant for the upcoming Metropolitan Transportation Plan. That's the one we do every 5 years through the MPO. RS&H is who worked with us on our last plan update about 3 years ago now. And so we're looking forward to getting them under contract and getting started. And when that happens, there will be some additional opportunities with this group moving forward in terms of input and things like that. But that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll get started under our first item of old business. That is 286, 290, and 296 Classic Road. We'll start with the staff report.
Good evening, everyone. Is it up there? Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Yep.
So as mentioned, this is for 286, 290, and 296 Classic Road. This is the location of the site. We have seen it before in previous meetings. It is comprised of 3 parcels, 2 of them front on Jennings Mill Parkway, and then you have Classic Road off to your right with that subdivision. And then on the left, it heads out towards New Jimmy Daniel Road. This is what the aerial looks like. You can see that there is development. There's a single family subdivision to the right there. There are some industrial and commercial properties around the edges. And then the area immediately adjacent here is largely undeveloped. There's also, I believe, 3 mobile homes on the particular site here. The request from the applicant is to rezone the land from EI, Employment Industrial, to RM2 with a PD. That would be residential mixed use. This also requires a corresponding change to the future land use map from general business and employment center to mixed density residential. The proposal itself is for 90 multifamily rental detached townhomes, 261 bedrooms. There are a couple of unique things about it, or factors here. Front yards of the townhomes largely face greens with a few exceptions. There would also be a clubhouse with some open space. There are 270 parking spaces, largely rear loaded, and a stormwater basin would also be constructed. The applicant has also requested waivers to code sections 8.115, which is the conserved tree canopy, and 925 8C1A, which is the requirement for front doors to face public streets or private streets. This is on the left is the current future land use designation. You can see that the area is split between general business and employment, and that extends along the entire, most of the parkway there. The new proposed future land use would be mixed density residential. As you can see, it would create isolated future land use, but they will look at the larger picture of that area in a minute, and we'll discuss that. This is the zoning. On the left is the current zoning for EI, all 3 parcels, and then on the right is the proposed zoning for RM2. Again, an isolated district. This is the site plan rendering. See, it is all townhomes. There would be, the stormwater basin is on the bottom left corner there. There would be access onto Jennings Mill Parkway and to Classic Road. The townhomes, the front doors would front largely onto those greens there where you can see some trees, and then the alleys would create vehicle access for each one. These are some elevations here. Just a couple different types. We would note on the edges that there are some that they would need more fenestration. Those bottom illustrations there don't show enough windows to meet our code. That's one of the technical concerns. But the main issue is the future land use and the future of the corridor. As you saw in a previous development that came before you about Mill Center and Melwood on your right there, this corridor was, when it was set up and constructed and zoned, it was set up for commercial and industrial. That was contingent upon getting GDOT to construct a flyover over the loop. They chose not to do that at that location. It is technically still feasible, but in the meantime, residential uses have come into the area. As you can see, all the blue on that map is residential. The green is industrial. The red is commercial. The orange is public and recreational. And then the gray is undeveloped. So if you zoom out on the larger corridor, you see that it's bracketed by a number of residential properties, as well as this neighborhood right adjacent on Classic Road. And then this is what it looks like, the wide angle aerial. You can see the residential projects on your left, undeveloped, including a lake in the adjacent parcels directly on this property. And then a little bit of an industrial commercial park. That's that loop there you see. And then there's some residential on the right and then commercial to the north. So as you can see, the land uses here are a mix, and they've never quite developed the way we had envisioned. And so one of the major questions in the staff report is going to be this future land use. There's a couple of things to note in the staff recommendation and staff report. The arborist here does not support a waiver for the conserved tree canopy. The site is largely covered in trees, and the applicant just hasn't really shown why they can't meet that waiver. We do, however, support the waiver for the front doors facing a street, because we think that that rule there, the spirit of that rule is to make sure that the private realm, the buildings, engage with the public realm, with the streets, the right-of-ways, so that buildings don't turn their back on the public. And so in this case, they are proposing that these buildings will face a public green, and this area will be a place where people can spill out, meet their neighbors, gather, where there will be an opportunity for kids to play, and there will be doors and windows facing these greens, so there will be eyes on these areas to provide security. So therefore, we feel that this arrangement meets the spirit of the rule, and we can therefore support a waiver. However, the site plan, due to some code compliance issues, cannot be approved as binding until some of these other things are addressed. Now, for the big picture, we have a trade-off in future land uses between what was envisioned as a bit of a job generation area and housing, both of which the comp plan calls for. They're both identified as needs. As we just discussed, the future envisioned for this corridor has not really panned out. And in a previous submittal on Mill Center, we had recommended changing the future land use to support more residential, because we think this is going to be the future of that area based on sort of how development has come along there in the last 10 to 20 years. That is the question before Planning Commission, though. We want to know, we want you to weigh in and make that decision, whether if you feel like residential is the future of this area, then this project can be, or this future land use can be supported. If you do not, it would be in the best interest to deny this proposal. So right now, because of some of the technical issues and the waivers, we cannot support approval, but we do support the change to the future land use. However, at this time, we are recommending a table. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll hear from our applicant.
Good evening. My name is Scott Haynes. I'm a landscape architect, deputy engineering, located at 355 Anita Street. Before I begin, we have a client that's unable to get into the meeting. Just wanted to let everybody know that we're going to proceed on with their presentation, but it seems like there's some technical difficulties with that. As mentioned in staff's report, this is a request to go from a future land use designation of employment industrial and general commercial to mixed density residential, and to rezone from EI to RM2 with a PD classification. Project that we're proposing is a residential townhome development located at the intersection of Jennings Mill Parkway and Classic Road. This project was before you in April of this year and was requested for rezone the entire property to CG with a special use request. That request sought to develop a mix of commercial and residential uses through relief from the requirement for ground floor residential.
41 pounds of
Um,
styrofoam, 3,780 pounds of batteries.
After input from the neighbors in the adjoining Jennings Mill Park neighborhood and Planning Commission's comments from April, the proposal before was removed. The RM2 PD request before you tonight is being made in an attempt to follow the guidance standards of the code in respect to what we can do for townhomes. I would like to recognize that our Unified Development Code does present challenges to townhome developments. This is true in RM, RS, or C zones. We have chosen to pursue RM2 classification, but it is apparent, specifically when we consider tree management requirements, that the designation was designed for more of a garden apartment style rather than townhomes. This is speaking of the RM2 when it comes to tree management. Staff's analysis of our proposal was very thorough, and I would like to address some of the comments they provided. Before I begin, however, I would like to say that I do believe very strongly that we can come to the ability to keep moving this project forward. We can submit an amended set of plans between tonight's meeting and when plans have to go to the mayor and commission that will address all of the comments and issues that staff has raised. So I do hope that we can find a way to continue moving this process forward. So regarding the comments, I'm going to move through the majority of these kind of quick. These are on pages 4 and 5 of your staff report. Starting with the first bullet, there's a concern of meeting the recreational threshold of 15%. And looking at our plans with the green space in between the units, we're getting a number around 20% for the site. So we feel like that's just a matter of labeling on the plan, and we can meet that without a problem, without changing any layout. Moving down the report, the application reported for the waiver to include the front porches and the requirements for those. We're showing a 5-foot depth on our porches on the site plan. There's merely a conflict in the architecturals. We can have that updated without a problem. We can meet that standard. Moving to the next, the end units facing public or private streets do not meet 25% fenestration. Again, this is a simple architectural correction. We don't have any issue with addressing this and getting that turned around. The next was a children's play area that was not designated. This is simply a label. We have a space on the plan for that. It was just simply not labeled as such. The next one is again dealing with architectural. This one in variety for units. Only a certain percentage of units can be of the same type. Again, we have no problem providing an alternative elevation that will allow us to meet those requirements. All of these things will have to be met. We're not asking for waivers from any of these things. So if approved, we would have to follow these standards, whether they're shown incorrectly on the plan or not. That's always been the case with PDs. When it comes down to there's two more, the additional accessible parking spaces. This plan has 3 spaces called out that are the common area spaces, by 2 by the clubhouse and 1 across from that from the mail kiosk for 3. We're required 7. This would be, again, a better application for a garden apartment where you had large bays of these public parking kind of infrastructure. In this case, we're parking almost all of our requirement either in garages or in 2 spaces outside of the garages. We have absolutely no problem with meeting any accessible space requirements within those garages, which means we're essentially providing 93 accessible parking spaces for the site, which is well above the 7 that are required. So there should be no problem meeting that inside the garages. We'll support that kind of dimensional demand. The last one was dealing with bike parking. Again, this was just a oversight in calling this out on our plan. So those 7, we feel like all of these things can be addressed with some simple tweaks to the labels and call outs on the plan, no problem, easy to turn around. Also some architectural improvements, no big deal. The main point that we need to discuss is this tree management. Just as a quick recap of how we do tree management in Athens-Clarke County, there are 2 numbers that we have to meet. The first is the percentage of conserved canopy. The second is the total amount of canopy, which is a combination of that conserved number and the overall planted number. We'll call that the total. These percentages vary with each zoning district. The number that we are deficient in is the conserved number. We are currently at 12.5% out of the 25% required for conservation. And we are meeting the total, which is 50%, for providing 15.5. So we're just over that slightly. For context, if the property was developed under the existing EI zone, it would only be required to conserve 5% of the existing canopy and would only be asked to have 40% total. Under the prior plan that was before you in April, which was CG, the conserve requirement was only 10% and 40% for the total. So as I mentioned at the beginning, the RM2 portion of the TMP ordinance, in my opinion, was not designed for townhomes, but rather garden apartments, things with more verticality where you're pushing your density into a smaller footprint, allowing for more conservation of site. If we look at something like an RS5, a single family designation, which might be a better comparison for this development, see that the conserve requirement for that is only like 15%. So we're very close to that. Now, RS5 is slightly less dense in comparison to RM2. It's little apples and oranges, but it sort of plays out the difference between our 12.5 and that 15%. Some of the factors that are really driving this too are the topo of the property. It has some pretty severe slope. So padding up these units is necessary. It makes preserving the inside of the property very difficult, which is why we're showing preservation around the edges. Also, the fact that we've chosen to front the units on green space, this actually does cause us to have an extra thoroughfare. If we were just facing units to the street, we could get 2 streets. Now that we're using alleys, there's 3 alleys because we're fronting on green spaces. So that's an additional encroachment into the area that could be perhaps preserved. We feel it's a good trade-off though, because we feel that makes a less auto-centric oriented type development and something that's more aesthetically pleasing. So, I mean, really the question here is how can we solve for this? We understand that we're asking for exception. Doing so, we need to proffer something in return. We feel that's the best option for that is to increase the total amount of trees that we can plant upon the completion of the project and raise the total number above the requirement. We're certainly willing to discuss this and what it should be. And I'd like to go ahead and start and offer that we plant an additional 20 large trees. That will raise our total around an additional 6.5%, giving us roughly a 57% total. Again, we're totally willing to discuss this further and try to find a path forward. And I know I've thrown a lot of numbers out, so if we need to revisit any of those, please let me know, because it's a lot of percentages and numbers being thrown out. As always, I want to thank staff for their guidance in developing this application, and thank you all for your time tonight. Hope you can support this item. It does not look like Cameron Grogan was able to get into the meeting, so with that,
I made it, Scott.
sorry, let me
Did.
reserve
I made it.
for him to make a few comments here.
Scott, can you hear me?
Yes.
I made it. That was user error, so I apologize for my tardiness, but I think I caught everything. Yeah, just take a quick couple minutes. My name's Cameron Grogan, my business partner Clark Cool, who you saw in the background. Yeah, we want to thank everybody. Just wanted to add on a couple of things.
And Cameron, you got about a minute and a half left of the total 10, so.
No problem. Yeah, I want to thank W&A Engineering for some of these conditions that were listed. We could have knocked out very quickly, and they did address them. They redid a site plan. We received the staff report last night at about 5:15, and then by 9 this morning they already had a lot of these conditions kind of met and commented on, and a new site plan. So I appreciate them doing that. I just wanted to kind of macro point out some things in the staff report that I think are really beneficial, and that I just want to bring everybody to go. And Brad just cut me off when I go too long.
Okay. You're about 45 seconds, so go fast.
All right, let's see how quick I can talk. So as part of mixed-use residential future land use change that we're requesting, non-residential uses are allowed in that and can be incorporated. And it mentions business, small business, daycare, and office. And that just stood out to me because daycare and office are two uses that Jesse Houle specifically mentioned when our commissioner in this district, when we talked about this development. So if we change this future land use and subsequently another property, it doesn't mean nobody can ever build commercial. You could still build your daycare and some office. And then, yeah, I guess I'll skip my.
We're at time, Cameron.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to the public comment portion. Is there anyone in the auditorium who wishes to speak in favor of this project, of this application? And to staff, is there anyone that has joined us via WebEx that is associated with this application besides Scott and Cameron? Doesn't look like it.
No, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. You'd be in the audience from this point on.
Okay, and is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, great. So we will move on to the Planning Commission discussion. Would anybody like to start us off? Matt?
Yeah, I'll start us off. Brad, you mentioned an agenda setting, and I just wanted to clarify now that you've heard, we've all heard from the applicant that the site plan stuff about like designating the playground and where the bike parking is, and the architectural stuff you mentioned about the 25% fenestration on the end units. You said that those you thought could be dealt with in conditions. Is that still true, having heard the what the applicant said? Because I think there would be a short timeline, right, to fix architecture before it goes to the mayor and commission if we were to approve it today.
Yeah, no, I'd still feel the same way about it. As Scott was talking, I've kind of crafted, if that's the route you all want to go, I've got some language crafted for a condition that I think would pick that up. The biggest concern that we have, if they're trying to address something between now and when it goes to the commission, if it starts playing dominoes with a site plan and starts moving pieces around and things like that, that's a bigger deal. In this case, it's some things that weren't labeled. It's, some architectural elevation changes to add windows and porches. I feel confident that they could work to get that done before we send it on to the commission.
Okay, thank you. So the one thing that did I understand you correctly, that you didn't think that the tree issue was addressable by a condition, because that would presumably, for them to comply, it would involve really significant site plan changes?
Well, I think the conserved canopy condition is not addressable in that same manner. If you required them to do the full percentage required conserved, that's going to require pieces to be moved around. I think it is conditionable for you to place a condition on there that they increase their overall canopy from the 50.5% to 58% or something. And then they would just plug in more trees before it went to the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of questions also that I think might also be for you, Brad. When I was looking at this application earlier this week, I thought somewhere I saw that it was intended for rental development, or that these homes would be rental homes. Is that right, or am I misremembering that?
No, I think that's right. I think Scott could probably, or Cameron could address that more, but it's my understanding that these would be rental.
Well, I guess my question is, if they, even though I can't find it right this second, if rental is in the PD, I'm just wondering about why we would want to limit their options as far as a rental or a home ownership model. Like, I'm just concerned that if you put that in a PD as a rental, then they'd have to come back for an amendment to, if they decided that they want to sell these. And is there some reason why that is less appealing, I guess?
I'm not sure. Is Cameron or, well, Scott, you would probably know better. Is it listed specifically in the binding report that they're rental?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I'm wondering if I'm mixing this up with another
No,
application.
no, I
That's why
think,
can't find
I
it.
think we raised the question and it was stated at the last meeting, but something, if they were to come back in and say, we've got an opportunity to sell these as condominiums. I mean, worst case scenario, if I even did that, would be to send it through the 15-day send around to the commission. It wouldn't have to come back through this
Okay.
process. Now, if they wanted to get into trying to do a fee simple attached product, it would be a bunch of waivers. That would have to come back, but condominium would not.
Brad, the report does under section 4, proposed development in the general information and proposed development section, it does say rental. The only reason I wrote this, the only reason I put that in there was because they're not set up to be fee simple.
Yeah. So that was something in our staff report, but it's not in theirs, I don't think.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
I wouldn't get caught up on that one. I think
Okay.
we can handle that if it changes.
okay.
Sarah, I've got a
Yep.
question, and I may have missed it in the report, or I may have it mixed up with something else. But concerning the tree canopy, didn't the arborist have a weigh-in on this, Brad?
Yes.
All right. If we were to go ahead and approve this and send it forward, I mean, that kind of bothers me. I would really want to have the arborist weigh in on whether or not this particular configuration that Scott has posted to, or proposed to us would be suitable. Or if that's something that you could do administratively. I kind of get the feeling it would not be. It'd be something that should come from the arborist. Is that right?
Yeah, the arborist works in our department. I mean, I think what you could do if you, as a planning commission, saw fit to send it forward with an increased planning requirement, that you could add the caveat in that condition that it shall be increased to 58% and tree selection and placement approved by the arborist. That doesn't get beyond, I mean, I think the position on the arborist within our department has been that, it is currently pretty much a greenfield site that he did not see adequate justification as to why they couldn't conserve the full percentage canopy when they're basically starting from scratch. But, that's, I mean, he's a staff member within our department, so I understand what you're saying.
Okay, I want everybody to know I find that kind of troubling that we would just automatically say, okay, we're going to overrule what the arborist suggested because an arborist is a professional, and without any regard to the size of these trees or placement to
Right.
add to make it the 58%. I find that something that's a little too
Yeah, I would certainly, if you did that, Lucy, I would be more comfortable too with adding it that you don't just go to 58%, but you prepare something to be approved by the Athens-Clarke County Arborist with regard to placement, type, and size.
right, because there's a lot of difference between a white oak and a water oak
Sure.
or a peach tree.
Yeah, that would at least give him the ability to work with Scott as they're putting together a revised plan, if that's the route y'all go, to come up with something that's appropriate.
Sarah?
Yeah, I just wanted to pose that to the applicant. Why can't we have adequate conservation of existing canopy here? Or what are the cost benefit trade-offs that y'all weighed in deciding to ask for this waiver? How much more, how much would you lose if you were to conserve the required amount of canopy here?
Yeah, so the way how we got here was sort of it's a long process, and it's taken into consideration April's meeting and how we've been trying to find the zoning category that would best fit this. If we like townhomes, we think it's an appropriate use for this area. RM2 was the best fit in terms of what townhome development how it could occur here. But as I said in my comments, RM2 really is, in my opinion, not designed for townhomes. It's designed for garden apartments, which are more vertical, allow density to be consolidated, and allows for 25% of the canopy to be conserved. If we were to preserve 25% of this canopy, we would probably lose, 20% of these units, something like that. It would be a significant change to the plan. So that is essentially why we're here. It's in our opinion that it's a mismatch from how the tree management plan or tree management ordinance is written when it applies to RM2 with this specific type of product. That's really how we see the issue.
And are you able to estimate a cost, a number, if this was to be sent back to the drawing board to get it to comply, if you lost those 20% of units and had that extra delay, the additional cost to the project, or even the additional cost in rent that would be put on? An estimate, like a ballpark.
I mean, I can refer that to Cameron. I think he can probably tell you whether the project works or it doesn't.
Yeah, I'll answer that. I think there's kind of two questions. The delay, when we got this report last night and saw that there's a table, I've been on the phone with the broker and who's representing the sellers all day. And my contract right now, to be completely honest with you guys, only takes me just past the next county commission or mayor and commission hearing. If we're delayed, I don't know if we've already been delayed once. They had another group a year ago that didn't go through this process, but kind of drugged them along for a year. So I think it would kill the deal, honestly, if we get delayed, because my contract would be null and void if we're delayed tonight. Dollar wise, Scott and I talked about, where we could conserve and how we would, it would be about, what do we say, Scott? Maybe another acre or so of losing lots. I think it's probably 20 lots. So I go from 90 to 70. The value on that 20 lots, the end value is, if they are rentals, it's material. It's if they're rentals, you still put a value, like if you were to sell them, and the value on these, even though they're rentals, but you do it $350,000 a unit. So I don't think the deal works time wise with the table or monetarily if I have to lose 20 units. It's better off trying to do industrial.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kristen.
I had a question for the applicant. So like, if I'm looking at the plan, I guess one question I had was, it kind of seems like you have the road through it that kind of splits it into two parts. So you've got sort of this northern section with the clubhouse, and all the units are kind of like pointing, I guess, outward, I guess, as and particularly along the very top portion where they're facing, they're out facing the main road there. But then the southern portion, you have them like facing these sort of green spaces. And I guess I was curious if the applicant could talk a little bit about the placement of the northern section, if you will, of the development, and why they're kind of facing one direction, whereas the other portion is facing toward their neighbors.
Sure. The most northerly units are faced that way, so they address Jennings Mill Parkway. We find it to be a pretty typical placement in these things to put a face to the development. The units below those, simply out of how they will relate to each other with the alleyway, is somewhat what's governing them. It allows the units on the east side to face the amenity space, which is its own green space. And it also allows for a bit of a streetscape when you come in on roads that are actually streets. That the road that comes in off Jennings Mill Parkway and exits on Classic or vice versa, it is more of a street. And so we did want to have a little bit of presence on that as you enter. Whereas as you get down to the southern, you start to take on a bit of different model with the alleyways and try and front those on green spaces.
And so the main entrance would be off of Jennings Mill, not Classic.
Well, I mean, are there usable entrances, right? There's no restriction. There is right in, right out restrictions on the Jennings Mill. That is, full access on classic road. But essentially, there has to be two entrances to this project for the number of units provided. So we had to provide some type of network to connect those two things, which by default created a street. Fronting those units on the street seemed like the likely option where we could to sort of reinforce that street. But as we've got away from that and moved down to where we're, I guess, less restricted by that street, if you move them to a different model where they can front green spaces.
Great, thank you. Could I get a quick explanation from staff about how total canopy is calculated? Because I assume the reason that we have these two different calculations, the conserved tree canopy and the total, has to do with sort of placing high value on mature established trees versus baby trees. And so when you are calculating total tree canopy, is the idea there that there's some calculation of like anticipating what those species will become in a certain number of years, and that's what your total canopy looks like? Or how does that calculation happen in the planning department?
In this particular case, because they're groupings of trees, it's a calculation. It's not on a tree by tree basis grown to their maximum size. It is the area that you're protecting and taking up. And so oftentimes when if you were able to go into one of those areas that the plan shows as a conserved tree canopy area and count individual trees, and if it's an oak tree, you give it the full mature 1,600 square feet like you do a newly planted tree, it would far exceed what they're getting credit for, because it is a larger area with a grouping of trees. And so it's counting those grouping areas versus the individuals.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have a comment or question, or is anybody interested in making a motion? Matt?
Yeah, I just have one more comment about the tree canopy thing. That is that normally I am protective of conserved tree canopy because, it takes 50 years for a new tree to turn into an old tree. And big trees are especially important. But I guess in applying that general disposition to this project, I also see some trade-offs here that I like. And I'm saying this, I don't know if it'll be relevant to how I vote tonight, but it may be relevant if the project does come back. I like aspects of this project, like that the townhomes have front porches facing a green courtyard rather than facing a road. I like that they're alley loaded rather than front loaded townhomes, because I think that presents a more kind of livable, pleasant environment for the residents. And, and I take seriously the applicant's remarks to the effect that doing it that way does require eliminating a bit more conserved tree canopy, because they have to, you can't leave trees right in the middle of the big courtyard when you're building townhomes on either side. They probably wouldn't get credit for that if they had, because they'd encroach on the root protection zone and so on. So I see good reasons for the site plan being oriented the way that it is. At the same time, I can't help but think that and I guess I also see the applicant's point that under the commercial zoning they presented in April, that this would have been compliant because 10% would have been enough. And so the technicality of the particular zoning classification, right? This is a PD, and if it was PD commercial general with a ground floor residential use, then they would be compliant with the applicable standard. So it's this 25% standard happens to come along with the RM2 rather than commercial, or rather than the current zoning. So to that extent, I guess I would say that I am, I feel less like it's important to stick to that 25% number. But at the same time, I don't know why it couldn't be 18% or something like that, or, a little bit more of an effort to retain some more of the conserved trees. So I could certainly be comfortable with a waiver, and maybe a significant one here, because it's really just an arbitrary feature of the zoning classification that happens to apply here. And we could approve the same site plan under a different zone, like an RM3 zoning classification, and I think it would be compliant with the conserved canopy table in section whatever it is, 8-7-15. So I have mixed feelings about it, and I like the project. I like a lot of aspects of the design of the project, and God knows Athens needs more housing. But I'm interested in hearing what my fellow commissioners have to say about the tree thing and the trade-offs as well.
Sarah.
Yeah, I'm also I am concerned about the tree canopy for the reasons that Matt said. There is a significant chunk of it on this lot already, and I just, between the staff report and different things I'm seeing in this plan, I would just like to address the fiction that a person's front step is facing a green space in this that seems to be detached from reality. When you live in a sprawl subdivision where you can't walk to anything and you can't bike to anything, and it takes an hour and a half, it takes 24 minutes to walk to the nearest bus station, which will give you an hour to get anywhere downtown, for instance, and a similarly long amount of time to get anywhere not with a car. Anyone who lives here is going to need a car, pretty much, or a lift. So how are they getting home? In their cars. How are they leaving? Also in their cars. That does not create a front porch on the other side of the house. The front of the house is where people come in and out all the time, and that's where the car is parked. You might have a nice window that faces a green space, and that's nice. But it's just a fiction. And so, given the autocentricity of this, no matter how you dress it up, without the momentum necessary to create any sort of walkable node in this area, it doesn't make sense to me to grant this waiver on the conserved canopy, which is one of our extremely valuable resources in fighting climate change. That's where I am. Lord knows we do need more housing. I don't see a reason that we can't conserve the canopy in this instance.
Anyone else? Katie.
I'm likewise torn on the need for housing versus, I think I was pretty much closely aligned with staff on that, happily to do all the waivers except for the tree canopy. Just wanted to point out, since I've been looking at corridor studies, this was one of two potential large green spaces that was identified, along with Beach Haven on, I think, Connect Athens. And yeah, I think as we discussed last time, I'm okay with the trade-off of losing this industrial area. And I would guess that a lot of the loosened tree regulations would be, the idea would be that jobs are worth that. I'm not sure if I agree or not, but yeah, my inclination now is to go with staff's recommendation and not all the waivers except the tree canopy. But I also want to hear if anyone else has ideas. And I do think I do approve of the the site layout. I think people would use those porches if their kids were playing in the green spaces, for example. But it is true, and I'm going to point out for the record, for the big picture, it would be really great if we had a lot better planning for this area, so we could actually create a walkable node. A lot better coordination. That's it.
Thank you. Welp. Does anyone want to make an attempt? Lucy?
Katie and I are very much in sync on this. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to table the future land use. See where it goes.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, so there's a motion to table the future land use request. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed?
I'm sorry, I raised my hand a moment too soon. I was trying to vote opposed on the tabling of the land use.
Okay.
I'm
Did you
also
get that?
opposed to tabling of land use.
Oh, can we start over with that? So all in favor, would you please raise your hand and say aye? So in favor to table.
Aye.
Aye.
So if you're raising your hand now, you would like to table the future land use request.
Got 5.
Okay.
Great. No, sorry.
Katie, did you want your hand up or down? Right there.
I didn't realize we were talking about the rezoning. I think the future land use is fine to approve, so I would.
Are you in favor of tabling?
No.
Okay, so all in favor of tabling, please raise your hand and say aye.
Hold it. Wait a second.
Maybe we need more discussion.
If Katie says she is not in favor of tabling it, that means that it dies without a second. Is that correct, Katie?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't prepared to think about the future land use versus the zoning change.
Yeah, and I seconded. So we had a second. We were ready for a vote.
Okay, I thought Katie seconded. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can't see anybody.
Can we have a bit more discussion on the tabling?
Yeah, we can do that. And so I think procedurally we can discuss, and then after we discuss, I'll hold that vote again. There just seemed to have been some confusing hand raising stuff. So would anyone like to start that discussion off? So the motion on the table is to table. Matt?
Yeah, I'll just say that it seems to me that the future land use change is appropriate. The sole holdup for many of us seems to be the issue about the conserved tree canopy, but I think the ship has sailed largely on employment industrial in that particular area, given that GDOT has no current plans to do the flyover, and that makes it, to the extent I understand it, that makes it impracticable to have significant employment stuff there. So I think, and we've seen other projects that are trying to do residential there. So my inclination would be to approve the requested change to the future land use map.
Great. Monique, did I see your hand go up? Sorry to put you on the spot, but.
Yes, after just hearing, the proposal, I think there should be more consideration about the future use of that space.
Okay, and Lucy?
Well, I'm still confused because I can't see anybody except about 3 of you that are on the commission. So I have no idea how other people are reacting.
Lucy, is that a technical just problem that can't be fixed, or is that just a matter of selecting your view options?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. So
let me jump in and offer a bit of technical assistance. I discovered this earlier, that Lucy, at the very top of your WebEx screen at the far right, there's a button that says Layout. And if you click on that, it'll give you the option to not see people who have their video turned off. And that should clear your screen so that only those of us who have our cameras on are on your screen. Just click on Layout and then select Hide Participants Without Video.
I still only get 1, 2, 3, 4 people on the commission, including me.
There's also a little slider with the little right next to the layout button. You can make people smaller.
I don't see that, sorry.
The only other thing when you clicked on layout again up at the top, are you on grid, stack, or side by side?
I'm on grid.
Okay. Yeah.
And then right to the left of the layout button, do you see the plus sign and the minus sign with a little slider between them?
No.
Oh.
Well,
Sorry.
and we can do.
This is very upsetting to me to have to deal with this where I cannot see fellow members of the commission.
It is controlled by that slider button.
I'm not getting it, I'm sorry. I have an ancient, well, not an ancient, I have an old Mac. And usually it works pretty well.
Yeah, I will say I'm pretty technically savvy and I've done all of the things everyone have said. I can only see 6 videos at a time. I think it might have to do with the size of your screen also.
That's possible.
It might, the size of our screen. We have smaller screens and our compatriots might have a nicer rig. So I don't know if there's anything to do about it.
Sarah, why don't we just do roll call votes moving forward?
Sound good. So is there any further discussion? Katie?
I did want to ask staff why they recommended tabling the future land use change. And I also just wanted to make the point that I think it's a nationwide problem that a lot of zoning doesn't reflect an understanding of developers' costs. And that would be another great aspect of long-term planning that would be great if this county tackled. So we have a better basis for understanding developers' costs versus the regulations we impose on them.
The reason that we recommended table, Katie, on the future land use was really just a logistics issue at this point. The ordinance kind of fairly strongly directs me that once you've taken action on an item, I'm obligated to forward it to the mayor and commission. I can't sit on it, and I didn't want the land use going as a separate item and then the plan to follow the next month. And so we figured it would be easier just if you're going to table it as a package, then it goes as a package. So
Lucy?
Which is kind of where I was going on this, because I know that when you forward part of something and you don't forward the whole thing, it can become not just confusing, but it can become difficult to determine whether or not the change that's associated with the future land use plan is actually arbitrary or not, if it goes later.
Okay.
And I agree with what Katie just said, and she knows that I agree with this, that the development costs for people who are trying to do really good development, especially because of land costs and because of technical problems with zoning ordinances, we agree on all of that. She and I have talked about that. And we have tried to get some attention paid to that here in Athens-Clarke County without an awful lot of success.
I guess one question I would pose is if we have an applicant in this case who has listed the ways that they will address the various concerns that were raised in the staff report, and who has suggested that they'd be able to increase the tree canopy waiver, or I'm sorry, increase the total tree canopy. And if there's the possibility of a condition being placed that then requires arborist approval, what I mean, other than if you're just totally against approving this period, what information is going to happen during a table period that we're not thinking about? Like if we already have the applicant saying, I'll do this, 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 and this, what is the table buying us or anyone? Kristen?
For me, I think I'm just uncomfortable with the idea that we have. I mean, if we say we went to a different department, it was the fire marshal, and the fire marshal said, well, you know, I really want X, Y, and Z. And I'll be honest, like I'm hearing all the numbers about tree canopy. I don't know enough about trees to know that, oh, if I add blah, 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 it'll be fine and the arborist will be fine with it. I don't feel like I'm qualified to make that call. So, you know, if I put it into another department and, you know, they said, oh, well, if we change this, this, and this, then it'd be fine and we can get a fire truck through there. I couldn't make that call. I don't know that. So to me, I mean, I feel like, you know, it's not up to me whatever the developer's timeframe is. It's just we should see a product that is ready to go, and I just don't know if this product is ready to go right now.
Lucy?
One thing I think we need to be very careful of, we're talking about the arborist. That's a human being who is part of a department and can be put under pressure to approve something because you just better get this taken care of because we need to go ahead and send it forward. One of the things that Planning Commission needs to understand is it is not under any pressure to approve, disapprove, table anything. It's up to the Planning Commission to decide if what is presented to it as a body is something that it feels comfortable with sending forward with a recommendation or tabling it. We're not here to be somebody's enabler. I just want everybody to be clear on that.
Anyone else?
So we still have a motion and a second on the floor to table the future land use.
Okay, so if there is no further discussion, we'll go ahead and do that vote as a roll call vote.
Yeah, Stephen, I can do this. Okay, we will start with Rowland,
Yes?
Sanders,
Sorry, trying to unmute here. No.
okay, Gearing,
No.
Goodrum,
Yes.
Hall,
No.
Morales,
Yes.
pass.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 yes, 3 no, motion passes.
Okay, and so does that stop us from further votes on this issue, or do we go ahead with the zoning vote or the zoning discussion?
I think just for clarity, since we've gone this far with it, let's go with the zoning vote too.
Okay,
Motion to table for the zoning vote.
okay. Is
Second.
there anyone? Okay, so Lucy second.
Yes.
Any discussion on that? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote again.
That motion was Kristen?
Yes.
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry, it was Sarah.
It was Sarah. Okay. Okay, Gearing,
Yes.
Yes.
Goodrum,
Oh, sorry. Mute myself.
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
pass.
Yes.
Rowland,
Yes?
Sanders,
Yes.
unanimous 7-0.
Okay. Okay, looks like we're ready to move on to our next item. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Our next item is 189, 191, and 193 Highland Park Drive. We'll start with the staff report.
All right, this is as stated 189, 191, and 183 Highland Park Drive. This is the location of the site. You'll notice there is one building. That is because this building is a triplex. As you can see, it is in a residential neighborhood there, surrounded generally by single-family homes and the like, fairly suburban, typical layout there. The request is for a special use permit for halfway houses in an RM1 zone. The specific proposal is a conversion of an existing triplex into 3 single-family residences that will then become halfway houses individually. We would note that site modifications have been made to expand impervious coverage and remove trees previously. Those would need to be addressed. Those were done without permitting. Those would need to be addressed in the permitting process. There are no changes proposed to the building envelope. And the purpose, as said, is the creation of 3 new halfway houses out of an existing triplex. The future land use is not proposed to change. As you can see, it is mixed density residential in this area. The zoning is also not changing. It is zoned RM1. Here's a site plan here. The proposal is to take this parcel and split it into 3. The triplexes are side by side rather than stacked. Here's what the structure looks like from the front. From the right side of the structure, the driveway serves all 3 units. Here's the back. And then this is the left side. So you can see that there's been some gravel and some tree removal done in these photos. Our staff report notes that the application is consistent with the future land use map and the zoning map. It also notes that there is a community need for halfway houses. There is previous site work that would need to go through permitting. Of special note is that the tree removal, if it turns out that there were more than 5 trees that were removed, that would result in a 5-year development moratorium on the site. Could potentially kill the project right there. The main question that we are bringing out of this staff report and presenting to the Planning Commission is that this is potentially an over-concentration of halfway houses on this street. If permitted, there would be 9 halfway houses within 100 feet of each other. There are 6 existing ones, and this would add 3 more. In light of that, staff is recommending denial, and that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Church. I live at 194 Highland Park Drive, and I am the agent for the applicant Freedom from Bondage. I thank you for the opportunity to make these remarks. Freedom from Bondage was established in 2004 by a local group of concerned women who, upon doing research, confirmed that at that time in Athens, there were 110 sober living beds for men and 0 for women. We opened our doors in 2005 as an IRS 501c3 nonprofit with 7 beds for women. These women were seeking a safe and sober living environment. Freedom from Bondage is certified and monitored by the Georgia Association of Recovery Residences. Members of GAR must meet strict safety regulations and high quality living standards as qualifications for this certification. The goal of Freedom from Bondage is to support the recovering woman as she builds a foundation in recovery, develops and enhances social skills, re-enters the workforce, and moves toward becoming a more productive member of our community at large. Our residents must adhere to strict guidelines of our program, and a few examples of these are all of our residents must remain alcohol and substance-free with no exceptions. We must attend 7 12-step meetings each week, obtain full-time employment, complete household chores, and contribute positively to the FFB community. I would like to clarify a couple of items in the staff recommendation report. Under the compatibility with the comprehensive plan, section 2, letter A, it states each of the 3 dwelling units would house 7 residents. However, only 2 units would house 6 or 7 residents, totaling 12 women. The middle unit would be housing for our staff member and her family. And under effect on community section 1, the addresses 212, 214, and 216 are incorrect. Our second building is located at 202, 204, and 206 Highland Park Drive. Section 2 states that the dwellings would house a total of 21 residents, but in actuality, it would be 12 or 14. Of the 9 dwellings, only 6 are used for residents of our sober living program. 1 unit in each building is designated for personal living space for our executive director, our program director, and a technician. Due to the crime factor and gang presence on Highland Park Drive, we chose these buildings in close proximity to one another as added safety for our residents. Per the zoning code, freedom from bondage is classified as a halfway house. The term halfway house can carry negative connotations. Many associate the term with individuals who are transitioning from prison sentences or have been court ordered to reside in supervised housing. Despite increased awareness and the fight to reduce stigma surrounding substance abuse and mental health disorders, the mentality of not in my backyard is still quite prevalent in America today. We specifically chose the Highland Park Drive neighborhood for this reason and for the convenience of the ACC transit, as most of our residents do not own a personal vehicle. We feel we bring value to the neighborhood in more ways than one. Firstly is financial value. We have made significant physical improvements to both the facade and interior of the properties we own. Secondly, we strive to improve the character value of the neighborhood with our organization's mission, core values, and high standards. In regards to the code compliant issues noted in the recommendation, or our organization plans to meet all steps necessary to make this right. I was misinformed of code requirements when we made these improvements to the property. The trees which were removed were done so out of concern for our safety of our residents, to prevent potential damage to the structure, and to allow us to install a chain link fence. We started this project with plans of planting intentional landscaping in the front yard. Additionally, the gravel area in the rear of the building was designed as a recovery meditation garden space. It is not intended as parking. Freedom from bondage is simply sober living. We were established to provide safe, sober housing for women seeking sobriety. Many of our residents are here voluntarily. I am an example of one of those. In 2008, I checked into Miles Street and completed their 45-day treatment program for my alcoholism. I was unsure of what was next. My marriage was over, my parents deceased, I have no siblings, and I felt very alone. I was given information for Freedom from Bondage Sober Living, and I entered immediately after treatment. Without FFB, I would have had no place to live. I've now been sober 14 years, and I have worked for Freedom from Bondage for 10 years as the executive director now. I have healthy relationships with my adult children and a happy, fulfilling marriage. I attribute all these successes and much more to my early recovery support I received from Freedom from Bondage. I thank you for your time and consideration as I humbly request your approval for our special use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this proposal? Okay, and is there anyone in the auditorium who wishes to speak in opposition to this proposal? Looks like we don't have any. And is that the same? We don't have anyone here on WebEx, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then we can move it to Planning Commission discussion. Sarah?
Yes, hi, Ms. Church. This is a question for the applicant. Would you be able to explain for me a little bit what benefits to your organization come from having all of these units, having all of these houses be on the same street and so close to each other, financial or otherwise, the benefits that would be lost if we were to deny this and you were have to find a different place?
Sure. Some of the benefits are that the buildings are close enough together that, pardon me, we have 3 on-site staff members that we live here full-time. And that helps us to better monitor and be of service to the women. And also, like I explained, the Highland Park Drive neighborhood does have crime and other things that go on. And we did feel that keeping us closer together would strengthen our community as recovery women and also just kind of keep us a little safer together, closer together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Matt?
Yeah, I'll just say that I do share some of the concerns raised in the staff report about the possibility of over concentration of halfway houses in one particular area of the city. I see where staff's coming from on that, and my I guess the concern I have about that is tempered by my confidence that this is an excellent organization that's doing very good work, and that not all halfway houses are created equal, that sober living homes are, may enhance their block rather than detract from it. There were a couple of comments that came in writing from neighbors that had questions and concerns about it. But I don't see anyone there tonight, and I appreciated those neighbors' comments. But I guess in the end, I think the organization's doing excellent work, and that my inclination is to get out of the way and let them keep doing it.
Kristen, and then Lucy.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to drive down the street and kind of get the lay of the land, and I gotta say, the houses that are already in existence as halfway houses were, they were some of the brightest spots on the street, and so I understand the neighbors' concerns, but I also think that the whole purpose of these houses and the living situation is to create a quiet, peaceful living environment for these women. So I can only see it as an asset to the neighborhood.
Lucy?
Miss Church am I right on her name? Yes, Miss Church. Brad, she mentioned in her testimony that these are different house numbers. Am I missing something?
No, I am not sure, and I don't necessarily have that in front of me. I know that we've got them identified correctly on the map in terms of, I think it was one of them that was across the street that we had, perhaps we had put in wrong addresses. I don't think, Ms. Church, you were referring to the ones in this application, were you?
No, the ones on this application are correct. But the two other special use permits, one of them was identified in the report with the wrong addresses. It's just a typo, I believe. It's not 212, 214, 216. It's actually 202, 204, 206.
We're showing the right location on the map when we're showing proximity. It's just we've got the wrong addresses. For what?
Okay, I was concerned about that because these are the kind of technicalities that can kind of mess things up. Somebody said, I think, anyway, not all halfway houses are the same. And in this particular case, I remember when the first freedom from bondage request came through for this neighborhood. And it looks to me like everything that was purported in that original request has come to fruition, which I think is good. We've had issues about personal care homes, and this goes back to believe it or not, this goes back to the 80s about personal care homes. This is not just something that's happened in the recent past as to how close personal care homes could be. The other thing is even if personal care homes could, and this was back in the 80s, even if personal care homes should be in neighborhoods. That's how serious this whole situation has been. And we're talking about now over 30 years. I'm going to go ahead and make a, can we do this as one, or does it have to be done as three?
It's one property right now. You can do it as one.
All right.
They've got 3 addresses on them, and it will ultimately be split, but right now it is a single parcel.
It's one parcel. Is
Yes.
that what I'm saying? So I can go ahead and make a recommendation that will include all 3 parcels. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to make a recommendation to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Who was that? Was that Kristen?
I think that was Sarah.
Sarah?
Okay, Sarah, great. Any further discussion? I do have a quick question. What is the reason for the subdivision?
Because the halfway house regulations limit the number of residents it can be in a single.
Okay,
So by subdividing them, it allows them to put more people in each unit than looking at it as a triplex. And then we've got to count the total of people in all units, and she would be over the number for
okay,
this
great.
zoning district.
Okay, thanks. Matt?
Yeah, so just to be clear then on what we're voting on, Brad, is we're voting to approve these, recommend approval of the special use permit for this parcel, and the applicant will, when they later subdivide the triplex into 3 single-family attached units, they won't need to come back to us, will they? Or is the subdivision part of the motion that's under consideration?
Yeah, no, the subdivision would be an administrative process. And Chris, I'm right. Y'all have not completed that parcel split yet, have you?
No.
Yeah. No, so we're voting on the overall parent parcel to allow her to subdivide and create 3 separate halfway houses. Even though she's using the one in the middle, she's requesting for all 3, and it would allow, if circumstances ever changed on the middle unit, she could utilize that one as well. If not, there would be no reason to even include it.
Okay, and so when they come back to subdivide into 3 single-family attached, you say that'll be an administrative thing. They won't have to go through this whole process again.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, are we ready to take a vote? Okay, all in favor of this motion,
Wait.
please
Roll call.
raise your hand and say aye.
I,
You want to do a roll call?
Let's do roll call since some of us can't see everybody.
Exactly.
Okay, we will start with the motioner, Rowland,
Yes?
Sanders, Sanders,
Yes.
thank you. Gearing,
Yes.
Goodrum,
yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Morales, Pass.
No.
No?
No.
Okay, motion carries with a vote of 6-1 to approve.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is 4555 Lexington Road. We'll hear from the staff first.
Okay, this is the staff report on the 4555 Lexington Road proposal. This is the parcel's location. As you can see, it's a very long and skinny parcel.
Steve,
Did we
Yes.
skip one?
I think we skipped one. We did the same thing that I did earlier. It should be 100 prints.
I did do that, I'm sorry. That's funny. Okay, sorry about that. So we're gonna backtrack one. We're gonna do 100 Prince Avenue.
All right, here it is. This is the location of the site. Now, the 100 Prince Avenue address covers the entire area that was previously done as a PD. Then this area was there's now condos. It's been subdivided into condos. So this red area is the specific area where the action is proposed. This is what it looks like on the aerial. You have Pulaski Street on your right, and Prince is headed out on your left. Doherty Street is headed out towards your right. The request is to amend a previously done plan development. The specific items are to modify the landscaping and hardscape around the currently vacant chapel. Specifically, the plan calls for replacing some of the alley tree planters that are already there with expanded planting beds, larger trees, and low seating walls. They also propose converting the front plaza into a courtyard by extending the existing low brick wall. They're also adding a new patio with a fountain on the Pulaski Street side of the building, and they're also going to add some larger tree plantings around the building, particularly on the Pulaski side. The purpose of the application is to create an attractive outdoor gathering area to serve a future event space within the chapel building. There are no changes proposed to the future land use. It is currently downtown. It would remain that way. And the same with the zoning. It is currently commercial downtown, and it would remain that way. This is the site plan. On the north is on the top there is Pulaski Street. On the right is Prince. That gray sort of looped area is where the extended patio and fountain would be located. The gray border between the chapel building and Prince is an extension of the brick wall with some low gates there. And then between those two gray buildings, the chapel and the main building, there would be installation of planting beds that would replace the existing ones there. This is the current conditions there. This is looking at the Pulaski side. The idea would be to replace some of those small shrub trees there with larger plantings. This is looking at it from slightly from the other side of the front there. That low brick wall is what is proposed to be extended towards the foreground of this photo, and then it would connect towards the left. This is the alley in question from a distance, and this is it from the top of the stairs. Those 3 trees would be replaced by larger trees in planting beds. As you can see, this area is currently basically featureless concrete, and they would be adding edges and low walls here to create a semi-enclosed area where people would be able to gather. So this is that view from the bottom, just closer in. As you can see, there's the distance between the chapel building on your right and the main building on the left. The idea would be that for those doors that are open right there, people could spill out onto approximately half of this area would be converted into more of a patio-like space. These are the renderings. This is from the front. You can see the gate installed there as they extend the wall to create a little courtyard. These are the plantings on the Pulaski side. And then this is the planters with the seating walls and the larger trees in the alley. And then this is from the top of the view as you come from the parking deck facing Prince. Our staff report notes that the plan is consistent with the future land use map, the zoning map, and the zoning ordinance. It is also consistent with the 2018 comprehensive plan, which calls for a vibrant downtown with park-like green spaces that de-emphasize vehicles. They create attractive areas downtown for people to gather, entertain themselves, gather for events. The primary question that we're bringing today is whether the trade-off between pedestrian traffic flow capacity in that alley is worth expanding the public gathering space. In staff's opinion, we think that this trade-off is worth it. Those buildings are currently at least either partially or fully unoccupied, so we can't determine exactly how much capacity we need, but we would say that the expansion of public gathering space would create a greater incentive for people to gather there and fill those spaces, and it would be a higher priority to fill those spaces than to have increased traffic flow through a space that's largely empty. The creation of this public gathering space, basically through the creation of more edges, people don't like to be in featureless open areas. They like to have edges and it helps them feel safe, and that would increase the viability of the proposed event space for that chapel building that is at the corner of a major gateway to downtown. And the comprehensive plan calls for attractive gateways and corridors such as Prince. So we feel like this trade-off is worth it. It would help occupy a primary iconic building at the corner of a major gateway and create an attractive place for people to gather. Therefore, staff recommendation is to approve the proposal, and that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll hear from our applicant. Josh?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Josh Coons with Coons Environmental Design, and thank you in advance for your time tonight. As you're aware, this request is an amendment to the previously approved 100 Prince plan development that's limited mainly to landscape and hardscape modifications. I just want to point that out because if you're familiar with the history of the rezoning of this site, it's always a little daunting when you see that rezoning sign go up. But these are we think kind of relatively minor changes that are going to have actually a pretty great effect on the site. I'm going to talk those through in a little bit more detail. I really appreciate Stephen, your presentation. I think you guys picked up on what we're trying to do, but I wanted to take a moment to introduce Lindsay Kyle. Lindsay represents the ownership of St. Joe's since that has been purchased, and she's just going to take a moment to tell you a little bit about what they're doing there.
Hello Hello. As Josh said, my name is Lindsay Kale. I am the Director of Special Events for a local group of restaurants and event spaces here in downtown. We purchased the chapel back in January with the hopes of turning it into another downtown wedding venue. Essentially, we're predominantly hosting weddings and rehearsal dinners, wedding related events. We do a mix of other things as well. But I work for Athens Food Group, which is kind of encompassing Trapeze Pub, South Kitchen and Bar, Georgian Hall, which is our other private event space that's located in the old Georgian building, and then now the Chapel Athens. So our kind of portfolio all includes, I think, historic properties. That's something that we have a vested interest in, is old buildings. It's kind of again, kind of part of our portfolio. So we saw the chapel and we're really excited about the potential of sort of reviving that space. As it was mentioned in the staff report, was originally the original church structure for St. Joseph's Catholic Church. And I think intended use was as a restaurant space. From my understanding, it didn't seem to be a viable option for that purpose. And so we're really excited about being able to actually bring something into the space, bring some people into the area. And the goal is really to utilize the full, parcel to its capabilities for the purpose that we're looking to use it for. So thank you all for your time, and yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Cool. Thanks, Lindsay. So just to elaborate a little bit, as I mentioned, this request is limited to landscape and hardscape modifications, basically on three sides of the St. Joe's Chapel, specifically starting on the east side, Pulaski Street side. We're proposing just a small garden terrace to help activate that side of the facade as well as the street frontage there. And the design of the space is really intended to complement the larger existing patio in form and materials, but provide a little bit more intimate gathering space relative to the other areas that are found throughout the development. The large front patio will be maintained. The existing wall that's on the print side will be continued, as the staff report noted, and return to the chapel, ultimately to help define the space and create a little bit more of a courtyard feel, to kind of emphasize the special nature of the front door of the chapel. A proposed planter between that wall that comes back to the chapel and the adjacent restaurant space ultimately helps incorporate a little bit more green space for people who are traveling through the alley, as we've come to call it on this, and soften the transition to the Prince Avenue streetscape. So these are minor divisions of space, but we think they're going to have a pretty profound effect just relative to getting green space in. I think the same thing is true to the alley. The proposed green space and the seat wall improvements that you saw are really intended to function on a few levels. First, given the amount of concrete that was initially installed, the green space is intended to provide some relief to the hard edges that we have on either side for people passing through the alley. The seat walls in combination with the green space provide an opportunity for those people to sit and gather informally and really help activate the space. Ultimately, reinforcing the public nature of the space. That's really what we're trying to do. In combination, though, what's really kind of nice, the green space and seat walls also getting, hopefully, is that me or hopefully not, getting some feedback here. Ultimately, the green space and seat walls provide enough separation that gatherings or functions at the St. Joe's Chapel can be separated from the rest of the public space when they do occur without a really hard separation between those two spaces. As a matter of fact, we sort of purposely permeated the green strip with multiple walkways to make sure that people could flow in and out and through that space, and there wasn't just a clear delineation of one side here and one side here. So we understand we understand the staff's concerns about potentially restricting pedestrian flow through this area, but we also agree with them that those concerns, I think, are outweighed by the enhanced functionality of the space and the attractiveness of the area, that these spaces work really well for what the event use of St. Joe's will provide, but it also is something that I think complements 100 Prints as a whole, as well as, provide something else for the community in these spaces. So we're really excited about it. We think this will have a pretty big positive change over there, and really appreciate any comments you have or insight. We'll be happy to answer any questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any, so it's time for public comment. Is there anyone in the auditorium who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Okay, anyone in the auditorium who wishes to speak in opposition to it? Okay, so we'll discuss amongst planning commissioners. Would anyone like to start us off? Lucy.
I'm sorry to keep coming back to being the oldest person ever, but I remember when the campus for the St. Joe's included the T.R. Cobb House that ended up being moved to Stone Mountain and then moved back. This is a long time ago. When this came before us years ago, after everything, and Josh is sitting there smiling, I can see it. When this came back to us, it came back to us piecemeal instead of being, it came back to us actually as one big thing, but I saw it immediately as being something that would probably come in its pieces because it did have such an interesting history. And that included the chapel, because when St. Joe's moved out to Ipsbridge or wherever it was, it became a new area downtown that was going to be changing, and nobody was really quite up there on figuring out how to do it. I think we've had some really good discussions about this over the years, and I'm really glad to see this particular piece brought in now, because so much of it is, it kind of laid low for a while. We all understand that. But I'm kind of excited about what Josh Coons is bringing to this. It's something that's going to be a piece of the puzzle that, 30 years ago, nobody ever would have expected this thing to come in here like this. I will go ahead and make a motion to approve, and we can continue to discuss, but I would like to go ahead and do that.
Matt, would you like to second?
Yeah, I'll second that. Yeah.
Great. Any further discussion, or did you want to say something, Matt? I may have interrupted you.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I think this is a great enhancement. It seems like a no-brainer to me. I commend the applicant on what seems like a really beautiful design. I walked through that, what we're calling the alley, an unhealthy, with unhealthy frequency now that Farm Burger is there. And that alley doesn't feel right. And this design, I think, makes it much better. Right now, it feels a little bit like a loading dock. It's too wide, and it's not really human scale. And I think all of the changes that are being proposed here are going to make it much, much better. And it's more than adequate to handle the amount of pedestrian circulation that it gets, or I think is ever likely to get, even with the narrowed design. So yeah, I think it's great, and I'm all for it.
Anyone else? Okay.
Roll call.
Yep, let's do a roll call vote.
Okay. Rowland,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Gearing,
Yes.
Goodrum,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Pass.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, now we will move on to the Lexington Road application, 4555 Lexington Road, and we'll start with the staff report.
Okay, the staff report for 4555 Lexington Road. As you can see, this is where the parcel is located. It has a narrow frontage on Lexington Road itself. It is very long and very skinny. It is bordered by the Woodgrove Drive, East Hampton subdivision on the right, and the under construction Lexington cottages at Lexington on the left. You can orient yourself by seeing Southeast Clarke Park is across the street, and the Walmart is just to the left of where those cottages are currently being built. Our latest aerial does not show the cottages, but you can see the area that was cleared, and you can also see the Walmart there. And then below that is the park across the street, and then the Woodgrove subdivision on your right. The area is currently wooded. Just another orientation for the site. This is the front of the East Hampton subdivision, Woodgrove Drive. The houses don't really appear until you get much farther in to this drive. This is the view from Lexington. And this is the same view from Lexington of the cottages at Lexington that are a couple hundred feet down the road. So these are the two neighbors of this parcel. The request from the applicant is to rezone from RS15 to RS8. Both are single-family residential zones. The proposal is for an 87-unit single-family detached subdivision concept. It is a straight rezone, so this plan is not binding. They are proposing 218 parking spaces, generally rear-loaded, a right-in, right-out entrance onto Lexington per GDOT requirements. They're proposing 2 points of tie-in to the adjacent Woodgrove Drive, which serves the East Hampton subdivision. There would also be stormwater management ponds. The current future land use is for single-family residential, and it is proposed to remain that way. As you can see, the land uses change here. There's general business and mixed-density residential to the left, and single-family residential to the right. The zoning is proposed to change from RS15 to RS8 on the right. And on this map, you can clearly see that on our transportation corridor map, at the very top of the property and then to the right, that Woodgrove, you can see 2 road stubs. Those are supposed to be connected on our transportation corridor map, and that is a requirement not for the developer to build them, but to leave space for those 2 stubs to connect. This is the site plan. As you can see, it would be one street with alley-loaded homes. Lexington is on your right. The end of the property is on your left. The Woodgrove subdivision is to the top. You may see where the cul-de-sac is there. That is where one of the tie-in points would be. The detention pond on your left is where the transportation corridor map proposes a connecting street. And so that would have to be removed and the site plan changed to comply with our requirements.
Stephen, I'm gonna jump in here real quick because this was something that came so late today that you don't even have this information yet. So it turns out we received a survey late this afternoon, and the actual right-of-way connection point that we've talked about throughout our report is actually about 90 or 100 feet west of this property is where it comes out on a survey. There is no connection. Our maps show it connecting into this development. The right-of-way doesn't touch this development in actuality. So, and it's not a binding plan, but the road interconnection issue, I think, as of a few hours ago, becomes a non-issue.
The proposal is consistent with the future land use map. There are some code compliance issues. One of the main ones was that street connection, and apparently that has been resolved. But again, this is a rezoning, so this is just a concept. The site plan is not binding. The major question coming from this proposal from the staff perspective that we would present to the Planning Commission is that the applicant has not demonstrated why the existing RS15 zoning is unworkable, especially given their need to use the Woodgrove Drive for access. They would need multiple access points per the fire code, and so they would be bumping up their density and therefore bumping up some traffic flow through the Woodgrove, the East Hampton neighborhood. So the question before Planning Commission primarily is to decide whether the applicant deserves the rezoning to a higher zone. In staff's opinion, the applicant has not demonstrated a compelling case for that, and therefore we are recommending denial. This concludes the staff report.
Okay. Next, we'll hear from our applicant.
Good afternoon, or good evening, I should say. This is Jeff Carter with Carter Engineering Consultants. Can everybody hear me okay?
Sir.
Yep.
All right. I've got Steve Oxman representing the developers team online with us. So if there's something that I can't answer, he'll be able to jump in there. Our position on this is that RS8 is a good fit for this property for a couple of different reasons, but primarily this is really a good transition from the cottages at Lexington, which is the RM1 development adjacent to this property. And then on the other side, you've got the, I believe it's the East Hampton subdivision, which is zoned RS15. So we feel like this is a subtle transition in terms of the densities between the two. It is true that RS8 is more dense. Because of several issues with this property, there really is no way to develop it at the maximum density. We could, by code under RS8, get about 100 units, and we're showing 87 units, which is about 3.2 units per acre, which is really the max that you can do. And it's primarily because of sewer. About 25% of the front portion of the property is undevelopable because there is no sewer access. All the sewer is really behind the property to the north. Because of that, there is I would say a significantly higher cost of developing this property because you've got the road infrastructure, you've got the utility infrastructure, you've got sidewalks, you've got street trees, all of this kind of coming from Lexington Road through 25 or 30% of the property before you can even start building houses. So there is a significant cost, and that's another reason that we really need to get the RS8 to make it viable. There's about 3,000 feet of road network that has to be put in for this, and not to mention the GDOT work as well to even get into the property. There are multiple properties that surround this that are already zoned RS8. If you look in our narrative that we provided, hopefully you have that in your packet, but on page 3, we've got a little diagram there that, and just in that immediate area, there's counted 4 RS8 properties. There's 3 or 4 that are zoned RM1, and then there's 3 or 4 that are zoned RS15 as well. So there's a lot of different zoning kind of right in that general area, and certainly RS8 is a big part of that already. We are providing a 50-foot undisturbed buffer between the property that we're hoping to develop between us and the RS15 property. So that will be a 50-foot undisturbed buffer next to the existing single-family subdivision. The proposal does conform with the future land use map as single-family housing. It looks to me to fit right in there. And I know the staff report mentioned that this is not a binding site plan, which is, I think, technically true. But I would suggest to you that because of the unusual shape of this property, there really is only one way to develop it. It's about 3,300 feet deep and about 350 feet wide. So there really is only one thing you can do, and that's, at least in my opinion, and that's put a road down the middle and have lots on each side. And as I said before, the first 25 or 30% of the property can't be developed because there's really no sewer there. We did perform a traffic study on this property, and we've been coordinating with GDOT for the access way. And I will tell you that the traffic study it also examined the existing Woodgrove Drive intersection. And in the existing condition, it operates with a level A, which is the best you can get. And then if this development goes through with the 87 units, that intersection will still operate at a level A. So there really should not be any issues as far as the operational level of the intersection. There are currently 32 lots in the existing RS15 subdivision off of Woodgrove Drive. And my understanding is that the ordinance allows for 19 without having a second entrance. And I'm sure Brad can correct me if I'm wrong, but and I think that's because of safety and probably some other things I'm not aware of, but that's currently in the ordinance. With this interconnectivity and access on Highway 78 that we're proposing, that will alleviate that as a concern for the existing subdivision. So, and then I would also point out that, and I think we're clear on this. I think Brad cleared it up, but the interconnectivity to Pine Creek Way should not be a factor in your decision, because there's no way that we can connect that up. So the site plan should be fine in that regard. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for letting me have a few minutes, and I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the public comment portion of this item. Is there anyone in the auditorium who wishes to speak?
Sarah?
Yeah.
I don't know if Mr. Oxman wanted to address. There's still about 4 minutes of the applicant's time. Steve, if you had anything you wanted to add.
Sure. My name is Steve Oxman. I'll be the developer. And just want to let everyone know that I have looked at, Jeff and I have looked at this project from every angle possible, starting with the existing zoning of RS15. And what he said hit the nail on the head. There's one way to develop this subdivision because of the required access to the cul-de-sac and access to Highway 78. The infrastructure costs are going to pretty much stay the same, with the exception of maybe the alleys. And at RS15, it's financially infeasible to develop the property. That's why we're making the request. As far as the extra density goes, I do think it's warranted, just being across the street from the park and close to commercial. So I think there's some benefits there as well. And then Jeff mentioned the safety issue. If the road on Woodgrove is blocked for any reason, the current residents now have a second point of egress to get in and out of the neighborhood. The one part that we didn't have to do that we put in there is the entrance that's across from Woodhurst. We put that in there basically to minimize traffic inside East Hampton. Anyone who's coming from downtown that needs to take a left onto Woodgrove can turn into the subdivision before driving past the homes in Woodgrove. So we put a lot of thought into this, and just everyone takes that into consideration tonight.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this application? And is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, here I can't see very well, but if you have something to say, please come up to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Robert Dean. You should have a copy of the submission that I sent in about a week ago. I reside at 235 Woodgrove. My wife and I moved there in 2007 when we retired. We chose that location on a cul-de-sac to get away from the main road, to give us some peace and quiet and some beauty from the green space right behind our house. The applicant has already built acre upon acre of dense housing just west of our location with row houses. They call them cottages, they're row houses. They have all the architectural charm of an army barracks. They want to build those houses out right to our back fence. Now, if you look at diagram 4 on our submission that I sent in, you'll see to the extreme right of it, aside from the picture of their row houses under construction, you'll see some wood starting there. That's the very start of the property that's a green space that goes over to our fence. Now, what they want to do to increase this residential housing there, they would have to put an access road down that. They want to put houses either on one side or both. By the time they do that, they put the houses, the driveways, the front lawns, these huge row houses, the backyards. By the time they get through that, there'll be virtually nothing left of the green space. You'll be lucky to have enough trees in there for a family of hummingbirds. It's a very short walk from Woodgrove Drive to that property. There's not enough room for all kinds of these huge apartment buildings. You all know that the statutory approval for rezoning rests by balancing the applicant's interest in the proposed use of the property against the community's interest in public health, safety, and general welfare. That general welfare includes the interest in the possible increase or overtaxing of utilities, schools, and streets, the impact of that development upon the local environment and the air quality, whether the rezoning will be a detriment in value to the adjacent property, mainly our property on Woodgrove, and whether it will have an aesthetic effect on the property if rezoning is allowed as it relates to the surrounding area. You don't need a real estate expert to tell that property values on Woodgrove are going to go way down if you put a multi-residential right on top of it. And you don't need an environmental expert to tell you the air quality will go down when you remove a forest. Most people talk about wanting to save the environment. You have an opportunity here to save a small part of it. Just follow the rezoning ordinance. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you for the opportunity to share with you this evening. I am Rebecca Moore, and I live at 320 Woodgrove Drive in East Hampton subdivision. I am currently the community organizer. We do not have an HOA, and so my role, voluntarily, I communicate with the neighbors, I keep in touch with them, email, text, phones. I also supervise the mowing of the front entrance and down to the first houses there on both sides of Woodgrove. I'm responsible for collecting voluntarily funds from each neighbor to support the mowing of that entrance. $55 a year is all we ask, and not all the neighbors contribute, but it allows us to have mowing from usually late March to early November. So the neighbors that I have communicated with, of course, are not in agreement to this rezoning. The current green space we have serves as a limited buffer between the cottages and our homes. We've listened to construction for a good while, even with that buffer. So we're just concerned. Another concern some neighbors had was about the schools. Our neighborhood serves Winterville Elementary, Hillsman Middle, and Cedar Shoals. And having worked in those, particularly in the elementary schools, what effect would that have on even adding more children, more students, and on overcrowding? So we just wanted to speak and share. Thank you for your time. We trust that we can save all the green space and not have to interfere with the cul-de-sac and try to cut through there. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak tonight in opposition to this application?
A few more.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Robert Shepard, and my wife Gail and I have lived in 230 Woodgrove Drive for the last 6 years. And my greatest concern is the traffic flow. Since we've moved there, I also am part-time staff at Cornerstone Church. And we have noticed that the traffic flow on Lexington Road has increased significantly from the continued east from the Washington area, I guess the Interstate 20. The larger trucks are coming into the area more and more. And then from the Walmart stoplight, we find that by the time cars get to our road, they're going about 50, 55 miles an hour. And getting out, I have to turn left to go to work in the mornings. And so to turn left is a very difficult job sometimes. It seems like I've stood there many times 10 minutes, which I'm sure is only about 3 or 4 minutes, but nevertheless, it is very difficult to get out on the road. And I'm just concerned that the traffic by more housing coming into the area is going to make that area a very difficult place and a very congested place for traffic flow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Saunders. My husband, Mike, and I have lived in Weatherly Woods subdivision. We live at 195 Honeysuckle Court for 35 years. So we are very vested in our community, which involves our neighbors, such as the folks who have already spoken. The cottages are just very close to us in our backyard. So we've had to deal with the concern of that coming into our property. We chose Weatherly Woods because it's in the woods. It's very quiet. It's peaceful. You come back in there and you feel like you're, out in the country. But now progress is creeping in on us, and it's not good progress as far as we're concerned. And so I would, I'm opposed to changing it. I know it's just zoning to RS8. That means you can put more houses. And personally, I'm opposed to that because we're losing so much green space. We're losing so much canopy. We notice more wildlife coming into our backyard now because their habitat is disappearing simply because, the trees are being cut down. And I don't want to see other people's houses. I like looking out in my backyard and seeing the trees. So I feel for these people, I know that the traffic flow, I don't have to come out that way. And, but I notice when I am on Lexington Highway, that it is hard to access getting in and out. As far as I'm concerned, I heard somebody talk about, there was no way to connect to a sewer. Well, we have a sewer easement going down our driveway. So my husband and I, our big concern is a sewer overload. I don't know how it works. I don't know who's connected to our sewer that's going down my driveway. I know that it's been about 20 years and it needs some work because our driveway's cracking now and our land is sinking down there in the middle. And I've spoken to but that's another whole story. And so I deal with the department. So in conclusion, I'm saying the building noise, it's like, okay, how is this going to negatively affect or compromise the enjoyment of our property? Sewer overload, building noise, listening to 87 houses being built or more, the tree canopy being, cut down, increased traffic on Lexington Highway, and trespassing, easy access in and out. We now have to worry about people that can easily come down the water, come into my yard and, possibly commit a crime. So thank you for your time and, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. And my name is Matt McLean. I currently reside at 165 Honeysuckle, which is part of Weatherly Woods. And my wife and I have been there a couple of years. And so we are also, I am against the rezone because of the density. You're talking a neighborhood to the right of it, which is 30 some odd houses, and you're going to potentially 87 with only a 50-foot buffer. So you're talking about, again, taking down a lot of the trees that happen to be there. And right now you can get road noise from Lexington into the neighborhood because of the fact that there's so much traffic out there. And I know, so that does tend to permeate through the woods. Again, with the sewer easement, you've got that sewer line that runs through from Walmart and brings a lot of that. And so with the cottages already being in that as a mixed use, you've got more density that's going to be coming into that sewer line. And again, if you put 87 more houses, you're going to again talk about taking down a lot more green space. And then you're also reducing the buffers because you can walk through that area and see the back of the other property. Plus the fact that they're going to have that stormwater runoff go somewhere. So that's going to kind of tend to come behind to the properties in Weatherly Woods and go down toward the Pebble Creek area. I know they can't really build there as that drops down, but that's going to be an area where that water will tend to have to go and run off. And so I think you guys said that, and I think when I talked to one of the people on the phone when I was questioning about it, that is not going to connect and come out onto Beaver Dam Road through Pebble Creek because of just the way that the creek and everything is set up. But again, we are opposed to any changes to that, and I appreciate your time to hear me out and let me speak to you. So I thank you again, and y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That is all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay. At this point, the applicant has 2 minutes to respond to public comment if they wish.
Yes, thank you. I will certainly respect the comments there that were made. I did want to just point out a couple of things as I was listening to the comments. There is this the 50-foot buffer that is undisturbed along the common property line with the existing subdivision. And if the subdivision was developed under RS-15, which is the current zoning, I don't think that buffer would be required. I think it would be a similar zoning at that point. So I do think the buffer is a good thing, and it being undisturbed, I think is very helpful. The traffic issue, we have done a traffic study on this and feel really good about the level of service that'll be provided even after it's developed. The left turns, I think just from a practical standpoint, most everybody coming out of this neighborhood would head down the main road and take a right going back towards Athens with the entrance, the right in, right out that will be constructed. So I don't really think the left turns would be affected that much from this development. And then the last comment was just about the sewer. We did turn in a sewer evaluation request with the utility department, and they did evaluate this proposal, and they came back and said there is adequate capacity to serve this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll bring it behind the rail for planning commission discussion.
Real quick, if we got still have a little bit of time.
I don't see who's talking right now. Is that you, Mr. Utzman? Oh, sure.
Like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Would there be any way that I could get contact information for everybody that came out tonight so I can reach out to them individually and talk through any issues they may have?
We can, Steve, we can share with you if they signed in and put any information, contact information on the sign-in sheet in the auditorium, we can provide you with a copy of that to reach out.
Okay, real quick, if you guys have a pen, my number is 404-372-6602. Please feel free to call me anytime so we can discuss.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll bring it behind the rail for planning commission discussion. Would anyone like to get us started? Kristen.
So I think, sorry, this sounds really like distracted. I want to thank everybody who came out to speak tonight, and I appreciate I always appreciate it when people come out and speak at meetings. So thank you, and I appreciate hearing from you because I'll be honest, like I've driven down here and I've gone through the neighborhood and things like that, and I mean, on its face, I don't really have an issue with the zoning change in this spot. Just because it is kind of a weird patchwork of zoning around this area, and you have the Walmart that's kind of like a center, and then you have the RM, and so we're kind of like fanning out from there and creating sort of, you know, buffers upon buffers of different types of neighborhoods. I think my real pause with all this, though, is like I don't really know, other than a bunch of squares on a very long, skinny thing with a bunch of roads and alleyways, I don't really know what we're approving. And so I kind of feel like if we're going to change the zoning and make all of that effort, I want to know a little bit more about what we're getting in return. And so that's really where my pause is, especially when we were looking at, you know, another plan earlier this evening. And again, I felt like it wasn't quite ready for the big time. And I kind of feel the same way here too. I mean, I don't know where the porches are. I don't know what efforts are made to create a neighborhood space in all these roads. And I'm also not sure how the roads are connecting to the neighboring developments, and how that affects the traffic going through all of these different neighborhoods. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. So.
Lucy.
Kristen just made a very, very good point. We don't know where this is headed because it is a non-binding site plan. It's just a rezoning. And I think we need to know better, especially when you're talking about the micro development, as to where it's going, including where it's going to connect, both at sewer and at streets.
Okay, Katie and then Sarah.
Yeah, it seems like mostly we've been able to comment on a binding site plan. I have several things. I think when we get PDs in front of us, it's different because it's not following the standards that are already in the zone. So if Brad, I could put you on the spot. I think our standards for different zones already have standards for the things that we tend to talk about, like you know, facades, block lengths, etc. Could I put you on the spot and ask you to kind of discuss the range of designs that that we could get without a binding site plan?
Sure. Yeah, and it's you know, and I think it's important to point out, and previous planning commissioners, I know Lucy just pointed it out. It's, you know, the proposal that you have in front of you could be built. It came in as a concept plan, so it never received a formal technical review from a standpoint of, you know, I think there were a couple of issues pointed out in the report that may still have had issue. I think the block length is still in question in terms of the way this design is. You know, we've not looked at any kind of architectural standards. We've not looked at, you know, issues even with, if you were to approve it, for example, and it's a straight rezoning, property becomes zoned RS8, it could be, not that these guys are going to, but it could be sold next week. after a week after the zoning to somebody else with a completely different idea may not provide the second connection point before you get to the houses, because if they've got access directly onto Lexington Road and they've got an access point at the rear, they would not have to do the second access point. What you were told by the applicant in terms of the reasoning for that second point of access was the same thing that we talked about a long time ago when I met with them, that they were truly trying to move cars off of the Woodgrove Drive into the neighborhood. If they were coming from town going east, they're going to have to come in on Woodgrove Drive. The purpose of that second access point was to allow them to turn into their neighborhood before they had to go in front of all of the houses in East Meadow. So, that I think that's a nice feature. I think the buffer is a nice feature, but neither one of those two things, if this were approved as a straight rezone, I don't have the authority to require either one of those to happen when it comes through the subdivision review process, unless it were a binding plan or conditions added. So I don't know if that answers your question, Katie, but that's some of the things I think you need to keep in mind with this type of a rezone. And if you were to try to get into, can we make this a binding plan? My comments, one, do you have enough information for you all to take that route? And I would also tell you that if you're going to do that, we really need to hold this and allow staff to do a technical review, because you can't make something binding that doesn't meet code as a straight rezone.
Katie, did you need to follow that up, or can I go to Sarah and come back to you?
I did kind of want to follow that up.
Okay, go ahead.
But by putting it out there that I think it is kind of, I wouldn't be inclined to do a straight rezone without conditions, which I think, Brad, you said were a possibility here. I think I'll just go ahead and give my list of concerns. I think, at the very first, I mentioned to you all earlier today that this site is in a corridor plan, and it suggests that this whole area, since it is near Walmart and near the Clark Park, be a multi-generational community. And so, personally, I don't have, I think, I believe in developing it in denser nodes. However, I think the lack of an interconnected street network is an issue. And there's not much that this property can do about it because of the cottages between it and Walmart in terms of access to Walmart. And finally, I definitely want more discussion on this, but if we did approve it with conditions, I'd want that the 50-foot undisturbed buffer and also the higher tree canopy standard again, which I think is 3% in the current zoning. That's it.
Thank you. Sarah?
So I think that I don't want to decide what the porches look like, and I don't know why this body has to be in charge of that all the time. I don't know why why this body appears to be so obsessed with finding site plans, because we do have technical standards that adhere to each zone. And so there's only so much crazy stuff that can happen allowing a straight rezone, including the land getting sold and to someone else who could develop it in an RS8 fashion. And this slot of land being between a lower density than RS8 and a higher density than RS8, and with several RS8 parcels scattered around, it doesn't make sense to not rezone this upon request, especially if it gives us the opportunity to build more housing near commercial nodes, near a giant park, near enough to a corridor that is actually actively being developed, transit that is much more accessible than the Jennings Mill Parkway location that we looked at. A lot of bike and ped infrastructure going in. encroaching out through there, with which we saw with our latest T-Splost. I think that this body can be a bit of a control freak collectively, and this is one instance where we need to let it go.
Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, thank you. So I had a few comments. One, I appreciate the neighbors coming out and sharing their concerns. I always appreciate when people take the time to do that. I share generally some of the comments I've already heard from some of my colleagues about the stepping down from RM1 to RS8 to RS15 seeming to make sense. As I understand it, the difference amounts to, under current zoning, the owner of this parcel could build, as of right, 54 homes in the RS15 zoning with no undisturbed buffer. And so I say this partly to the other people on this body and partly to the neighbors who came out. The 50-foot buffer is something that the applicant is offering that's not required by our code. And if they wanted to build 54 homes there with RS15 zoning, they could do that, and they could mow those trees down and put lawns right up to the fence, to my understanding. So the difference, what we're being asked to approve here is just an upgrade from 54 homes to 87 homes, and with some things offered to alleviate some of the neighbors' concerns about green space and some of all of our concerns about conserved tree canopy. And, frankly, I think Athens needs 87 houses tomorrow, if you can build them that fast. 54 is good, 87 is better, because we have an acute housing shortage. So generally speaking, I'm favorable to this. I was also going to mention that I wouldn't want to vote for it without conditions, of some of which have already been mentioned. Just kind of more generally, I agree with put it this way, since I came on this body, we have often said, and I've said myself, that when an applicant comes in with a straight rezone without a binding site plan, we're often a little skeptical. We apply, not to say we don't approve them, we approved one last month, but that we look a little harder at it. We want to make sure that to some extent we know what we're getting. And I think that that's generally healthy and good, not because I have any interest in reviewing porch architecture, but because I think we're all acutely aware of the risk of sort of a switcheroo, like an applicant coming in and seeming like they've got a good plan, and then once it's rezoned, they may sell it for, they get it under contract for this much money, and then they get it rezoned for more density, and then they turn around and sell it for considerably more without ever, developing it at all. And so I think we're generally, we want to make sure that we're getting things that are of value to Athens-Clarke County and to the neighborhood when we do a straight rezone. But I don't think that, we've ever said we won't do them. And as I said, we did one last month on a parcel up by the Space Krogers that we just rezoned to RM1 because it made sense to do that. So generally speaking, I think I'm favorable to this rezone. But I did want to ask the applicant, is there any reason you couldn't bring this back as a PD? Because the site plan seems to have a lot going for it. Some of the things we're talking about changing would be conditions like, 50-foot undisturbed buffer, requiring the second connection point between the roads, which I appreciated the applicant's explanation of why you're proposing that, and that makes great sense to me why you would do that. And conserved tree canopy, and there may be some other conditions, that we would be inclined to impose if we were to just do the rezone. So is there any reason why you couldn't take what you've done and package it fairly rapidly into a plan development application, and then resubmit that so that we don't have to think as hard about conditions because the site plan would be binding? Are there economic reasons or other reasons why that's not practicable?
Yes, Steve may be able to further my answer, but just from obviously we would rather not, just from a timing standpoint. The owner's got some contractual deadlines that he's trying to meet. But is there a reason why we couldn't do it? I mean, that is one. I mean, we, as an engineer, certainly we could. But I would kind of go back to the fact that there are technical standards that we're having to meet through plans review, and there really is not a whole lot that can be done in terms of different designs. So in other words, if the owner decide to flip the property, they're still going to, if they're going to do residential development, it's still going to be a road down the middle with lots on each side. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but Steve may be able to talk about the contractual issues that he may have with extending it.
I think you're muted, Mr. Exman.
No, you're not.
Sorry about that. Told me to ask a question, but our intent was to submit with a binding site plan, and I believe there's a lot more involved to a PD, but I think a binding site plan would accomplish the same results, right? Brad, is that?
Yeah, and theoretically I mean, if the applicant was willing and it was something this body was interested in, you could vote to table it and have them bring it back next month as a binding plan, and that gives us I don't know that there's that much that would need to be changed on it. Honestly, we just didn't take it to that technical level, but that could be basically our review before the meeting next month, would just be to evaluate it for compliance and work with them to work it out.
And timing is a little bit of an issue. I think one way we could resolve it here, there's really only a couple of things on that binding site, or on the site plan that we submitted, that are in question. That everything would have to meet the current RSA zoning ordinance and all the restrictions in it. I think if we could condition this on the 50-foot buffer and a second entrance or a third entrance directly across from Woodhurst Court, the little cul right there. And maybe, I think we're above the conserved canopy, so maybe whatever we're showing on the binding site or on the site plan that we submitted, commit to that level of conserved canopy, and hopefully that would have the same net effect as a binding site plan or a PD without having to go back through the process.
I think if those are the things that this body's concerned with versus, other details within the plan, those are the two big things that I see from the staff review that would absolutely very easily go away with if it was not conditioned. The rest of the stuff, there are standards they're going to have to follow under the code. So if you put the buffer in on the east property line at 50 feet and the second connection to Woodgrove Drive and the location shown, it pinches them down to this is about all they can do. They couldn't turn around and front load those things because they can't meet driveway separations, and it would just going to end up looking pretty much like it looks now.
And so, Brad, is the short of a PD, is the binding site plan essentially the only sort of tool we have to provide that 50-foot buffer between this development and the neighbors on Woodgrove?
No, you could simply, if you were compelled to do so, this body could make a recommendation to approve the rezoning with the condition that a 50-foot buffer undisturbed buffer be provided along the entirety of the eastern property line, and that the 2 points of connection to Woodgrove Drive occur, one at the cul-de-sac and the other directly across from, I don't know the cul-de-sac name, but Steve just mentioned it. I mean, that would lock that in. Everything else would then be subject to review under the current design standards of the zoning ordinance.
Okay, that's helpful. Did I see another hand go up? Maybe was that you, Sarah?
It was me, but on second thought, it's not a necessary question right now.
Okay, Lucy?
And this may just be my super suspicion, gene kicking in. The owner of this property is an estate, which means that it isn't somebody who is an owner who plans to develop the property. To me, that sort of signals that this is a property that is for sale. And that is not necessarily a bad situation, but I want everybody to be aware that these things happen. And because this is non-binding, I agree with Brad. If we had some standards that were already built into the property, even though it's not necessarily a quote binding site plan as we're used to seeing, I feel a lot more comfortable with this. And based on that, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to table, and we'll see where that goes.
Would anyone like to second that? Okay, so we will continue discussion then. I guess that's where that went.
Motion died for a lack of a second.
Kristen?
Well, I will say, with the understanding that I have now of the various requirements that would be in place, and with the 50-foot buffer, which I have to say is a lot bigger than what a lot of developments voluntarily put in. So I appreciate that. I would be willing to put forth a motion to approve with the condition of a 50-foot buffer along the east side of the property, and the second connection to, oh gosh, I don't have my reading glasses.
Woodgrove Drive.
Thank you. Was that correct? Is that what we were talking about? Okay, yes.
I'll second. Yeah, I'll second that. With the understanding, I think this is what Kristen's motion entails. The second connection, as shown on the site plan that was submitted, right in that location. That was,
yes.
So I'm seconding it.
And we'll clean up that language, pull street name, and make sure it's clear when it moves forward.
Katie?
Say it's directly across from the cul-de-sac, and make sure we've got all that right.
Go ahead, Katie.
I'd like to add the conserved tree canopy to say 25%. If anyone has a problem with that.
Brad, with a development like this, what would the requirement, with the R8, with a new R8 zoning classification, what is the conserved tree canopy requirement?
Give me a second.
The report said the discrepancy was 30% versus 15%.
Yeah, that's and there's.
So that would be something for the neighbors to.
Okay, so for an RS8, RS15, conserved canopy 30%. RS8, it goes down to 15%. With a total of RS8 total 45% and RS15 60% total. The total's not going to be hard to meet. You're going to pick up a ton of that in just the number of street trees that are going to be put in along the street on both sides. But it would be a matter of 15% versus 30% on the overall site development conserved canopy.
Kristen, would you be okay with that as a friendly amendment to the motion that the applicant shall provide 30% conserved tree canopy? Because I assume the 50-foot buffer makes that pretty easy to do, right? That gets you to.
The combination of the open space, the 50-foot buffer, and then the undevelopable property in the front, because it can't be sewered, should get them really, really close, as well as they've got some in the back too.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking, but I hesitate to. I don't know. I feel like it's a little too in the weeds for me. I feel like there's a lot of canopy on this property that's going to be conserved. Just looking at the plan here, and the sewer and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I feel like I don't really want to. I don't want to put that on it. I mean, I don't want it to be like we're within 2% and now we can't do it because like we made this arbitrary thing about it. I don't want to do it.
Okay.
I think the gentleman who reached out ahead of time and sent the email that contains the photos made, and I think that was Mr. Dean, made a really impactful argument for the life that these neighbors enjoy. And I think that I feel like the 50-foot buffer preserves that for them. 50 feet is a wide buffer. I didn't even realize the site was wide enough to really be able to do that practically. But I think that we talk a lot about sort of trade-offs and what the benefit, why that when we sort of grant a rezone or at least recommend the approval of a rezone, that we should also be able to sort of expect giving something back to the community for that. And for that reason, I do support I don't think it's unfair to add that we would like to see the tree canopy, the conserved canopy, be what it would be if it had stayed RS-15. I don't think that's going to be difficult to achieve. A 50-foot wide buffer is a wide buffer. And between those two stipulations, I guess, and I can't remember the third one. The third one was access point, but it seems fairly reasonable. Matt.
Yeah, I completely understand Kristen's hesitancy. If they end up at 27 or something, I don't want that to stop, things. But I agree with what Sarah said. So I'm kind of on the fence. And maybe let me just ask a question of the applicant to help me get off the fence. Would a 30% conserved tree canopy thing create any problems for you as you see it in this site plan?
So as the engineer, the land planner on this, honestly, I think 30% is pretty steep because not that we won't have the open space. Obviously, we've got the undisturbed buffer, but there is a little bit of topo challenge, especially in front of the site. And so I would request or suggest, if we could, do 20 more than what's required, we're okay with that. But 30 is a little bit, I don't know that we can, I don't know if we can achieve that or not.
I would entertain a friendly amendment to a tree canopy of 20% undisturbed. Yeah.
I'll make that friendly amendment to the motion.
All right.
Have we received a second on this motion yet?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, I think we are ready. We just have one vote on this, correct? Yeah.
One vote, and the motion is to approve the rezoning with 3 conditions. One, that the 50-foot undisturbed buffer be provided along the entire eastern line with the exceptions of the 2 points of road connection. That 2 connections be provided to Woodgrove Drive, one at the cul-de-sac and one as shown on the site plan directly across from, and I'll fill in the name of that street. And then the conserved canopy requirement for the development be increased to a minimum of 20%. Okay. With that, you ready for me to call roll, Madam Chair?
Yep.
Morales?
Yes.
Pass?
Yes.
Rowland?
No.
Believe we have lost Sanders. Yep. Okay. Gehring?
Yes.
Goodrum?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-1.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Also, I really appreciate, I think we all really appreciate those of you who showed up tonight to give your input. And I just want to make sure you understand that the Planning Commission makes recommendations. The buck does not stop with us for the most part. And that I encourage you to follow this application along to the mayor and commission, where you will also have the opportunity for public input. So thank you for coming. Okay, we'll get to our last agenda item, 2152 West Broad Street.
This is also a straight rezone case. This is the location of the property. It is on West Broad Street, shortly before you get to Hawthorne and Alps as you're headed out of town. This is the aerial of the site. As you can see, it is surrounded by parking lots and generally commercial uses. It is the former extension office, and the county has chosen to rezone it in preparation for it being sold. So the request is to move it from the government zoning to commercial general, and to change the future land use map from government to general business. Property is vacant and it is being rezoned in preparation for sale. No development plans accompany the request at this time. The building itself is in quite poor shape. As you can see, so the current future development has this parcel as government surrounded by general business on the left, and then on the right it would be rezoned to essentially blend in with the rest of this block as a commercial general future land use. Same thing is happening here with the zoning. Would go from government to commercial general on the right. There's very little from the staff perspective for us to note with this property. We think that the request is consistent with the adjacent future land uses and the zoning map. We don't really see an alternative use for this site, and so we support the rezoning. So we recommend approval, and that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. So are the staff and the applicant one and the same in this case?
There will be no further staff presentation on this one. We are one and the same. Other than just to tell you that during the time that I've been here, we have done this different ways. We have surplus property. The one that sticks out in my mind that was when the old Fire Station 4 was still down Lumpkin Street in 5 Points. And when we built the new fire station, I think that's 4. Regardless, it's the old one on Lumpkin Street that John Barrett ended up buying. But we sold that with and it was still zone government, and it made the sale much more difficult to do. And then we had to bring something back through. This is just an easier way to do it, for us to go ahead, look at the property, make a recommendation for the most appropriate zoning, and then market it for sale accordingly. So this is a request from the unified government.
Great. And Max, I'm assuming that there's no one in the auditorium to speak to this item?
There is not, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any planning commission discussion? Or motion?
I'll move to approve the future land use change as recommended by staff.
Great, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Lucy. Do we still have our quorum?
Yes. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
6. Yes,
6.
7. We've still got 7. We're good.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Okay, and this one started with Matt. Paul.
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
Pass.
Yes.
Rowland.
Yes.
Gehring,
Yes.
Goodrum.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great. Okay, so we'll move on to other business.
We need a motion for the zoning.
Oh, okay. Lucy, is that you who wants to make that?
Yes, we'll go ahead and make a motion to rezone it.
Okay, and
I'll
did I
second.
see Kristen? Okay. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote again.
Okay, Rowland,
Yes,
Gehring,
Yes.
Goodrum,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
pass.
Yes.
Motion carries for the zoning. Unanimous. Thank you.
All right. So the first item under other business is the Planning Commission Chair's report. I do not have anything to report. Brad, do you have a director's report for
I
us?
do quickly, just to go over the actions from Tuesday night. There were several rezonings that were considered by the mayor and commission. The first one was the request for the rezoning on Olympic Drive from industrial and EI to the R1 PD. That item was held for a month for further or continued discussion between the district commissioner and the applicant. So it will be considered at the September mayor and commission meeting. Second item was the amendment to the neighborhood at Timothy and Ruthwood, the Timothy Park Lane, to do the small community green space and add the lots. That was approved as with conditions as recommended by you all. Third item was the rezoning from commercial rural to RM1. That's the property behind the Kroger that was part of the connecting road that moved across, that was a straight rezoning. That was approved. The request on 441 to rezone from AR to CR was withdrawn by the applicant. The special use on Meg Street for the Bottle Works residential component was approved, and the special use for the fraternity home on Hancock was tabled for a month to allow the applicant to have further conversations with the neighbors. And that concludes the director report for this evening.
Okay, great. Are there any other announcements or housekeeping items or anything else that needs to be discussed?
I do not have any other than to tell you that I'm committed to getting you guys back in person as soon as I can. I did not that we would have all had to be masked in there, and I think given the setup of the room and our ability to stream, it would have not turned out well. So, but as soon as we can, we're back in person.
Okay, great. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion that.
Okay. Kristen, and then Sarah will second.
Yep.
All in favor? I feel like we can do a aye vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, and opposed? Okay, great. Motion passes.
Thank you all for your.
I have a request.
Yes.
Sure.
My request is if there are problems having concerning computers, since Athens-Clarke County does not give us computers, I'm operating with the same computer that I paid for. I would like to know why I cannot see every person on the planning commission on the screen. And I want to know why we are not given that option.
Lucy, I hereby volunteer to invite myself over to your house and see if we can figure it out.
I'm not a stupid person.
I know, but I wonder if there's just something we're not seeing.
It's never happened before.
So this is
Like
new.
before tonight or before?
It's never happened before tonight.
Oh, okay.
I will check with our public information too, Lucy, to see if, I mean, we went through a change to our overall system to go to a cloud-based and then change some software. And I couldn't live stream tonight, and it was a completely different prompt and I've been doing it for 2.5 years at every meeting, and for some reason it didn't work. one point early in the meeting when I was cutting myself out, Jeff Montgomery showed up from home to try to help me to get it live streamed, and it was a screen that we have not seen before. So,
But literally, I only have, and right now, I only have 6 boxes. Okay, that's
Maybe Cisco did a update.
It does seem like the interface is different.
Yeah.
Yep.
My feeling is, this needs to get fixed. Because I didn't know if Alice was on here, if Kristen was on here, if Taylor was on here. I didn't know who was on. Literally, at any given moment.
I will see what we can do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, everybody. Thank
I'm
you.
not a mean person.
Other than that, good job, everybody, tonight. Have a good evening, and we will see you next month.
All right, thanks a lot.
See y'all.
Bye.
Bye.